Grab your soda and your popcorn because we're going to the movies. Let's get into it. Hey, welcome back to my channel. I've been looking through my vault. I have this steel case with all my DVDs in it. I have a ton of Blu-rays, but I have a bunch of movies I never or is not available on Blu-ray. I still have a ton of DVDs. I probably have about 700 of them, and a lot of horror films. And I was pulling out some titles that I haven't watched in a while, and this one caught my eye. This is one from my youth that I used to rent a lot at the video store. And this movie's called Popcorn. This movie was released in 1991. It's rated R. It's an hour and 31 minutes. And this movie didn't do very well on release, but I've always liked it, although there is some issues. We'll get into those as we go along. Now, this film is interesting in that it had the original director was Alan Ormsby. He used to work with Bob Clark in the 70s. He wrote Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. He wrote another horror film for Bob Clark. Bob Clark's the gentleman who gave us Black Christmas, Porky's, and the famous Christmas Story movie that everybody loves to watch around Christmas time. I love it too. I love that film. He wrote Porky's 2 for Bob Clark, which Bob Clark directed. He was the original director for this film. But after about a few weeks of production, they decided to remove him and they gave it to Mark Harrier. Here is the connection back to Bob Clark. Mark Harrier played Billy in Porky's, and Bob Clark was an uncredited producer on this film. So there's a lot of intertwining threads there in this production. But yes, Alan Ormsby, as we'll get into the film, shot, supposedly from what I've read, shot all the movie within a movie, because these kids are basically having a horror film festival at this movie theater as a class project. And they're showing these old, cheesy 50s horror films, and they're doing it in the vein of William Castle would have done back in the day, where they're rigging the seats to give everybody a little jolt of electricity for this one film where the guy has electrical powers. And the one film has a big mosquito, and they have a big mosquito on a line that goes across the theater over top of the crowd. And they have some other stuff, too, that they do. It's really cool. It's very showmanship from an era gone by. And so yeah, Mark Harrier came in to direct this film after Alan Ormsby was let go after a few weeks of production. In this movie, we got Jill Sloan as Maggie. I remember her mostly from Phantom of the Opera, where Robert Englund played the Phantom. I like that film a lot. I'm going to review that eventually. That movie was directed by Dwight Little, too. And she's good here. Tom Villard plays Toby. He is one of the classmates. And I remember him, this actor, from Heartbreak Ridge mostly. He was in that film with Clint Eastwood. He was one of the guys in the platoon that Clint Eastwood was in charge of. And horror royalty Dee Wallace is in this film as Susan. That's Maggie's mother. And again, like I said, it's basically this film group in class. I don't know if they're high school or college. I don't think they said really. But they're trying to do a class project. And they decided there's a theater in town, an old theater in town, and they want to hold an old school horror-thon. And they go there, and this theater is the old style Victorian style theater. Has a balcony. It's not stadium seating. This is way before stadium seating was a thing. And they have this guy that comes in, and he actually was the gentleman who was in My Favorite Martian, but he's in this film, and he brings these cases of stuff for him to hang all over the theater and to rig the seats and the big mosquito that's going to fly across the theater and all this cool stuff. And they decorate the theater to get it ready for this horror-thon that they're planning on having. And in the meanwhile, Maggie had already been having these nightmares, these weird dreams, and she's writing a screenplay, so she's trying to use them as inspiration for her screenplay. And she tells some of her classmates, and they're kind of like, it's crazy. And then they start talking about this film called The Possessor, and this gentleman who made the film. And their head teacher, who looks, I didn't do too much research on him, but he looks recognizable from another film. I just don't know what film that was. If you know who he is and what other films he's been in, leave a comment down below. And here, this gentleman who had like this cult following of these people who followed him around. And when he decided to show this picture, this film called The Possessor, which they do show in the movie, and it's not very impressive, but he brought out his wife and daughter and planned to kill them and burn the theater down. He locked the doors. He was going to burn the whole theater to the ground. And that was his story. But the teacher says they never found his body. They don't know if he actually died in a fire or what. Well, not long after, Jill's house has also been getting strange phone calls. And her mom played by Dee Wallace, is very disturbed by these. And the night before their horror-a-thon, her mom goes to the theater because she gets a phone call. And she thinks the director of that film is still alive. She takes a gun with her. And she goes in and she ends up getting dragged off by somebody. We don't know who. And the night of the horror-a-thon, all the kids are there. They're ready. They have their parts, what they're supposed to be doing. And one by one, they get taken or killed. Until we get to the end. I'm not going to give away who the killer is if you've never seen this film, because it's kind of like whodunit for sure. But the killer keeps changing faces. They show him making these masks out of latex, and they're very well done. The effects on his face and the way he changes them is very well done in this film. And he can look like anybody. And he's like he can look like any of their classmates, teacher, whoever, you know. So they keep you guessing who it might be until the end. So there's several red herrings. And then finally at the end, we discover who it is. And who it isn't actually the director of that film. It's somebody that was there that night as a young boy. And his mother got killed in that fire. And he's always blamed Maggie and her aunt, who is Dee Wallace, who isn't really her mother. Maggie is actually the daughter of that film director. And she was about to be killed, but her aunt showed up and saved her. But everybody else in the theater, the fire still went off. And some people died. And this person's mother died in the theater that night. So he's exacting revenge because he had years of plastic surgery to fix his face. He was burned badly. And basically this man's gone insane. And he's just trying to exact revenge. And this was his plot the whole time. It doesn't always make sense, but it's pretty well done in some ways. Some ways it's not. In some parts they give off supernatural overtones, which they never explain. And the killer never possesses any supernatural powers whatsoever, but there's some parts where you would think there's some supernatural forces at hand. I don't know where those came from or why they're there, but they're in there. So there's a couple odd moments of what the hell is that? Because they never set that up at all, and he never shows that he's supernatural in any way, shape, or form. But it's a pretty cool little whodunit slasher film for sure. It's not overly gory. There's a few moments of gore. Nothing. This is not a Tom Savini film from the 80s. It's pretty tame for the most part. I would give this film a 6.5 out of 10. It's not perfect, but I like it. I always loved the premise of this movie. I think this movie's ripe for a remake. This is a movie I can get behind a remake. I just loved the premise of the film. I just don't think the execution was all there. I still like it. I watch it. I used to rent the shit out of this movie when I was a kid. I just fascinated with this film, and I still like it to this day. And the actors do pretty good. Some of them come off a little cheesy. But overall, you can have a really fun time with this film, especially if you're a slasher fan. It's a little bit different than most slashers because there's a little bit different elements in it. But I really enjoyed this film. So 6.5 out of 10 for me. I know it seems low, but I still like this film. The other interesting tidbit about this, they actually shot this film in Kingston, Jamaica. And you'll notice there's Jamaican music that pops up. Like, it's just kind of strange, or just it's there. But that's why. They shot this in Jamaica, and they used what they had. But, yeah, 6.5 out of 10 for me for Popcorn. Have you ever seen Popcorn? Leave a comment down below. Let me know. Hit the thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. All that great stuff. Share this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. Y'all take care of yourselves. I'll be back soon with another review. Thanks. Bye.